For 8 seasons, Charmed wasn't just a show, was a cultural obsession. 3 sisters, supernatural powers, and a world of demons captured millions of hearts. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling? Let's just say, the real life. Stories were darker, messier, and far more shocking than any spell they ever cast. This isn't your average "where are they now" story. It's raw, it's surprising, it's packed with fame, fallout, and fierce reinvention. So what really happened to the original Charmed cast? Stick around because each story is wilder than the last. Alyssa Milano didn't fade. After Charmed, she reinvented herself at over 50. She stepped onto the Broadway stage in Chicago, playing Roxy Hart. It wasn't a vanity project. She auditioned like everyone else and took on the role as a statement of power and persistence. Critics were mixed, loved her energy, others critiqued her vocals, but Alyssa powered through. Outside of the theater, Alyssa became a political force. She led conversations in the #MeToo movement, stood with Ukraine, and called for a ceasefire. In Gaza, her podcast Sorry Not Sorry gave space to voices often left out of mainstream media. She wasn't just tweeting, she was marching, organizing, and showing up. Her memoir, dropping in late 2025, promises more revelations, and she's not slowing down. With a first-look deal at A&E Studios, she's stepping into the producer's seat, shaping the stories she believes in. Alyssa Milano's story isn't about surviving Hollywood, it's about refusing to sit quietly. Marie Combs took a quieter but equally powerful path. After Charmed, she returned to TV as a grounded mother in Pretty Little Liars, but her real impact came later through podcasting. With co-stars Brian Krauss and Drew Fuller, she launched The House of Halliwell, a hit among old fans and new. But this wasn't fluff. Holly spilled truths about on-set drama, industry sexism, and the real reasons Shannen Doherty left the show. She didn't shy away from conflict. In interviews and on stage at fan events, she called out toxic work environments and Hollywood's obsession with youth. Her blunt, no BS attitude resonated deeply, especially with women tired of fake perfection. Fans admired her not just for who she played on screen, but for who she became off of it. Honest, raw, and fiercely loyal. In her personal life, she chose intention over fame, marrying 3 times, raising 3 sons, and stepping away from acting. When necessary, Holly did what few in Hollywood do. She put family first. Her comeback wasn't loud, but it was real. In an industry full of illusions, Holly Marie Combs stood out simply by being unapologetically herself. Shannen Doherty's exit from Charmed was dramatic, but it was only the beginning of a much tougher journey. Labeled difficult. In Hollywood, she pushed forward with a string of roles and never let the tabloids define her. Then, in 2015, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Instead of hiding, she opened her life to the world. She shared everything. The fear, the surgeries, the chemo. Her podcast, Let's Be Clear, became her platform for brutal honesty. She talked about mortality, heartbreak, and the emotional toll of fighting while the world watched. Even as her marriage collapsed, with the divorce finalized just 1 day before her death in July 2024, she kept showing up. At 53, Shannen left behind not just a body of work, but a legacy of strength. Shannen didn't fade away quietly. She redefined what strength looks like in the spotlight. Her story wasn't about fame, it was about facing the unthinkable with grit and grace. In her final years, she became more than just a former teen star. Rose McGowan didn't just leave Charmed, she torched the bridges behind her. After accusing Harvey Weinstein of rape, she became one of the first public voices in the #MeToo movement. But instead of applause, Hollywood shut her out. She didn't act surprised. Rose had survived a cult, an unsolved murder in her youth, and a toxic industry. Speaking out wasn't a choice. It was survival. By 2020, she'd had enough. She left Hollywood and the US altogether, settling in a quiet part of Mexico. No paparazzi, no press junkets, just her dog, and the peace she had been chasing for decades. She embraced simplicity, learned Spanish, and redefined joy in her own terms. Her father had lived in Mexico for 35 years, and she called her move a return to her roots, not an escape, but a reclaiming. By 2025, Rose made it clear she's never coming back. Not to the spotlight, not to the industry that tried to silence her. She's not interested in fame, only in truth. Her story isn't clean or polished, but that's what makes it matter. In a world obsessed with appearances, Rose McGowan chose reality, and that's a different kind of power. Brian Krauss may have played the angelic Leo on Charmed, but in real life, he stayed just as grounded. After the series ended, he pivoted to indie films and took creative risks, even directing his own project, Me and Michael, a raw story about homelessness in LA. He promoted it through grassroots platforms, showing he wasn't chasing meaning, and fans noticed that outside of film. Brian lives a life few celebrities do. He surfs almost daily, runs a surf school, and spends his time mentoring veterans battling mental health challenges. His connection with fans is more personal than polished. He doesn't show up for glamour. He shows up because he genuinely cares. And when he speaks to young actors, he often brings up his early days working as a handyman and pie delivery guy, proving success doesn't have to come from privilege. His story is a reminder that fame doesn't have to come with ego. Brian stayed humble, creative, and connected. While others disappeared or chased relevance, he chose a life that feels real. In 2025, he's not just remembered for Leo, he's respected for the man behind the role. Julian McMahon went from playing the seductive, mysterious Cole Turner to carving out a career filled with edgy, morally complex roles. After Charmed, he took the lead in Nip Tuck, portraying a plastic surgeon with a twisted solo performance that earned him a Golden Globe nomination. He later stepped into the villainous shoes of Doctor Doom in Fantastic Four, doubling down on his ability to play characters you love to hate. By 2025, Julian had returned to his roots. His latest role in The Surfer, shot in Western Australia opposite Nicolas Cage, saw him leading a violent surf gang. The gritty indie made waves at SXSW. He even had to relearn his Australian accent after years in Hollywood. Beyond acting, Julian began using his platform for ocean conservation, working with NGOs to protect marine ecosystems, something close to his heart as a Sydney native. His personal life had its own twists. 3 marriages, a daughter, and a few high-profile relationships. That didn't always end well. But through the ups and downs, Julian stayed in motion. Whether stepping away from major shows or embracing causes he believed in, he proved he wasn't afraid to walk away from comfort to chase something real. Drew Fuller won hearts as Chris Hallowell, the time-traveling son in Charmed. But after the show, he walked an unconventional path. He had a solid run on Army Wives and starred in the feel-good film The Ultimate Gift, but soon began turning down traditional roles. Instead, Drew shifted toward directing indie films and creating passion projects like The Feminist and a quirky documentary titled Magnetic Plasma for Mass as Enlightenment. He also the House of Hallowell podcast with Holly Marie Combs and Brian Krauss, giving fans an inside look at the show's legacy. The twist? Drew had never watched Charmed all the way through before recording the podcast. His real-time reactions to plot twists gave the series fresh life, and fans appreciated his honesty and humor. Off-camera, Drew has stayed humble and mostly under the radar. He still attends fan conventions, shares stories from his modeling days with Prada and Britney Spears, and talks openly about the pressures of fame. In a world full of Hollywood hustle, Drew chose art, balance, and purpose. And somehow, that made him even more magnetic. Dorian Gregory played Detective Daryl Morris, one of the few mortal anchors in a world of magic. After Charmed, he quietly stepped out of the spotlight, but not out of action. He produced and acted in Lifetime thrillers like Fatal Fixer-Upper and As Luck Would Have It, showing that he wasn't just chasing screen time, he was creating his own lane. Beyond Hollywood, Dorian became a force for advocacy, living with type 1 diabetes since childhood. He's spoken openly about managing the disease and pushing for awareness. He's worked with organizations like AIDS Project Los Angeles, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and LAPD's Jeopardy program for at-risk youth. He's also a musician, poet, and playwright with his group MD, says gaining unexpected traction in Europe. Despite being out of the daily headlines, Dorian remains active, attending film festivals and speaking at panels. He's now 54 and still fit, focused, and full of energy. Whether it's hosting Soul Train in its final years or lifting up communities that get overlooked, Dorian Gregory proved you don't need magic to be impactful, you just need heart.